guys, and welcome back to Betwixt the Books. It is now 2026. Here is our first Betwixt the Books content for the year, which, as it has been for the last several years, is our wrap-up for last year's Buddy Reading Challenge. If you didn't know, every year Gretchen and I create 10-ish challenges of, like, specific prompts for books that we want to read together or fulfill in some way together. As the last couple of years we have been using some of them as reading roundtable prompts where we don't necessarily read the same book, but we still both fulfill the same prompt. We put it up on Storygraph, so if you want to join us or see what we might be putting out for content, because we'll add those in early sometimes, you can go follow us over there. I'll leave the link down below for last year's one. We are going to announce next year's next week, where you can go and follow that one then. But if you want to, like, see our reviews and things like that, I'll link the one from last year down below. And today we're going to go over all of the things we read for the challenge, whether we completed the challenge, and link all of the videos that we can to this. Now, obviously, there's more than 5 videos when we have 10 challenges, so we cannot link all of the challenges up above in the card, but we will link some of them up there, and at the end of the video, I'll have a playlist that you can click on to watch all of them all together. We're just going to go back and forth and talk about the books and the videos that we did, and that's pretty much it. If you want to see some of our content from the last year that maybe you missed, or get some ideas for your own reading challenge, that's what this is here for. And then hopefully it gets you excited for next week when we talk about what we're going to be doing for 2026.
So, a lot of times when we start these, we're like, okay, guys, we're going to talk about the ones that we completed, and then we're going to mention that there were some that we didn't that we have to roll over to next year, guys. Guys, we have no rollover. We did it this year, which is incredible. So that is why there's definitely 10 videos. Because for the first time ever in Betwixt the Books' history, we've done all the challenges. And I just want to say too, I've said this throughout the year of 2025. I almost said throughout the year, like we aren't in a new one. Ugh. We really pushed ourselves this year to not only read, like, we always like to have, for example, a translated book, which we'll talk about, but like really pushing that and like looking at how we've done these challenges in the past to make sure that we're not reading narrowly in one category. So hopefully that's also inspiration for you, even if it isn't the way that we did it, to really take stock of your own reading and say, okay, great. Like, I read a lot of translated books, but they were all or almost all Asian authors, right? So, the first prompt that we tend to put on this challenge is one that we, it sounds like it should be easy, but there have been years where this was not easy for us to complete. But this first one is to read and review an arc on time. The on time bit has been a struggle for us in the past, but I do believe the last several years we've done this. This year we fulfilled this challenge we actually read a couple of arcs together, but we fulfilled the challenge with Sweet Obsession by Katie Robert. If you are not familiar, we are reading through all of the Dark Olympus books by Katie. We actually have reviewed the book after that since then, because Katie's releasing these books so fast. But yeah, Sweet Obsession was sweet and pointless, potentially. Yeah. It was a good book. In terms of the romance was sweet. But in terms of the plot for what will eventually be a 10-book series, the 10th book is coming out in 2026. To the reverse of the book on Zeus and Hera that we released a review of towards the end of the year, which was plot confused and sad romance. So, little did we know when we reviewed this one that at least the romance would be cute.
Yeah. I wish I could say the next challenge went better, but the next challenge was to read a book translated into English from a country considered part of the Global South. Like Gretchen said, we have had read a translated text on the challenge before, but we really tried to focus on reading something outside of our normal wheelhouse. I personally read a lot of Korean translated literature, so that's often what I will bring to the table when we go to do this. We decided to pick Reservoir Bitches for this, and unfortunately for us, this was not our favorite. We really loved the last story in this collection of short stories, but outside of that, we had a lot of issues with the translation and the repetitiveness or non-necessariness of some of the stories in this one, even though it was, I believe, longlisted for the International Booker Prize last year. So if you want to hear our full thoughts on that, obviously go watch the video. But unfortunately, not our favorite translated text.
So the next prompt was one that it's going to be kind of confusing for me to explain. Let me work on this. So there's been a lot of talk in bookish spaces about authors that are being canceled, and then the further discussion of, okay, so we've canceled the author. What do we do with the work, right? Because like, is the author dead? Is the, you know, obviously we are completely supportive of like not giving a certain British author any more money, right? Because that money is actively going to harm the LGBTQIA plus community. Um, but we wanted to kind of take some of this discourse and take it in a uplifting way.
Mm.
So we had a prompt that was to replace an author that you have personally canceled. And we did this as a reading roundtable. The addition of this to our lineup has allowed us to take on some of these more complicated prompts, and then not have to agree on one book. Because while we have a lot of similar feelings about things,
Mm.
there are some prompts or ideas that we have. We're like, oh, but I don't know if we could pick one book to kind of explore this. So we did this as a reading roundtable, and we asked everyone to read a book by an author that would replace the work of an author that they had personally canceled. And so for myself, I was thinking about Sherman Alexie and the Diary of a Part-Time Indian, and I brought a different book by a different native author with similar themes, who as far as I know is not problematic. And actually I had met this author, and Eric, and he's been really awesome. I took some writing and children's literature classes from him. So it was obviously Michaela and myself. We also had guests Emily and Erica on with us, and we each, like I said, took a different author and then brought a different book. So it was just a really good conversation that allowed us to kind of tackle these important issues about, especially, you read a book and you don't know a background check about every author that you read, right? Or it's an author who was really important to your childhood, and now you've grown up and learned a little bit more, while replacing them with authors whose work we also enjoy and also want to uplift. So it was a really, really thank you to Emily and Erica for taking on our "this will make sense, we promise" prompt. um, and then it was a really good reading roundtable that, of course, you can go and watch.
The next one was also one that we brought for a reading roundtable, and that was to read a monster romance. I enjoy monster romances. They're so silly and fun. It's just like weird and out there, and it's just a fun time for me. It's an extension of where I started in romance, which was paranormal romance, which doesn't it's still out there, but it's not popular right now, so there's not as many things being published. But monster romance is having a little bit of a thing, at least it was last year. So I had a bunch of people come together and read them. One of them was my partner Isaac, who read a Chuck Tingle collection. We brought one of my best friends, Des, back to read another one of the mermaid books that she had. I read one about demons, and Gretchen read one about the Loch Ness monster. So if you're interested in hearing like just a bunch of like wide, weird books, I didn't super love mine, but some of those were good and some of them were bad, and it's just a silly fun time. Not all of these challenges are meant to like push us as readers in like an intellectual way. Sometimes you just want to have a fun time and have a silly, goofy prompt. So yeah, we read some monster romance this year. It was fun.
So the next prompt was the nonfiction one. And the book that we read for this both may not have completely fulfilled the prompt, but also ended up being on both of our best books of the year list. So, it was still a really good book. But anyway, the way that we originally phrased the prompt was read a nonfiction book from or about a modern country facing conflict. And one of the reasons that we did this is because, obviously, for myself, as the bigger nonfiction reader, I'm very focused usually on American politics or American history. I did bring a book on Anne Boleyn to a reading roundtable not too long ago. So, like, I do step outside of that, but we wanted to have a more global focus this year since for our own prompt, we've again been reading mostly, if not entirely, American slash North American, because we've done some indigenous stuff that isn't specifically the United States of America. So for this, we chose to read One Day Everyone Will Have Always Been Against This by Omar El Akkad. The obvious choice, the reason here was because this book is about the genocide and in Palestine and the history of that conflict, which we both wanted to know more about. The thing is that this book is less about Palestine itself and more about the Western slash American news slash storytelling around this and how it kind of replicates a pattern in modern news media and stuff like that about like just like the storytelling, the whitewashing, these things that we do to kind of make certain stories palatable over here. It's a very powerful book. It's quite short for a nonfiction book. It's under 300 pages. But I mean, it blew us both away. There are just like, not only is it a powerful book, but it's a powerfully written book as well. The author certainly knows how to just like create a turn of phrase where I know there were moments that I was just like I just had to like take a pause. So we did at the end of that video, if you're curious, you can go see. We did find some recommendations for actual like history nonfiction that may be useful for you if that's something that you're looking for. But we still chose to count this book because it's potentially even a more unique view on this that we certainly didn't think we were going to find. But also, again, it's working on two levels. It's talking about Palestine, but it's also just like a larger conversation that we need to have about the way that our views are shaped by media and storytelling about these types of things. So for me, it was my only 5-star read of the year. And I know Michaela had like 3, of which that was one, but highly, highly worth the read. And I'm far better of a describer of it in the actual review, so go watch that.
Our next prompt was to read an Indigenous fiction book. Like Gretchen said, we have done nonfiction in the past. This was a reading roundtable. We decided to do this during Native American History Month, which I didn't know is in November. We had, I believe, the lovely Anne with us for that. I brought a horror book written, a bunch of short stories written by Inuit folks. Gretchen brought a romance. The author is Chickasaw, but the characters in the book were Muskogee. And then Anne brought a book that was Métis Indigenous. All of those are different Indigenous groups. We had some like really good discussions about like audiobooks when it comes to Indigenous fiction because a lot of these cultures have more of an oral storytelling history, so listening to those as audiobooks sometimes enhances the experience versus just reading them physically. We had some interesting discussions because like Gretchen's was the first Indigenous romance author to be published by like a big 5 publisher and not be indie pubbed. I read something that was published using funds from the Canadian government to help support it. So yeah, it's an interesting thing. It was a great discussion to talk about, and we always like to bring in like one fiction prompt that is celebrating one of the history months every year, I feel like. So this year we chose to do Indigenous month, and we fulfilled that prompt. So nice. Nice.
So, another kind of like perennial prompt that shows up on here is to read a queer romance, because that is something that we both enjoy reading, but also enjoy promoting. Since I read a lot of romance, obviously, and a lot of that is hetero. And one of the things that we noticed when we were making these prompts, well, about a year ago now, was that queer historical romance was like having a moment. There was a lot of it coming out. So we chose to kind of go that way with this prompt. Since normally we just say queer, like romance, and it usually is contemporary. I think almost always. And so for this, we read the same book. We read A Lady for a Duke by Alexis Hall. And this was actually a trans historical romance. And it was definitely interesting. I think overall we both enjoyed it. It was definitely interesting to see this element play into, both using the historical time, but also wanting to have like a queer happy ending love story, and how the author was trying to balance like reality versus the happy ending. Um, so yeah, we enjoyed it, but we definitely had some things where we were like, hmm. And so for more on that, you can check out the full review. But overall, love seeing queer stories. Obviously, they've always been in historical fiction, but it was great to see over this last year more of them. At least, like for me, seeing them actually promoted, and I hope that that continues.
Always a question in our current political climate, what's going to happen with those books. So happy to promote them while we still can. We had another prompt on here that was a little bit of a break because we had been reading a bunch of like heavier themes, and that was to read a book that reminds you of our childhood. This was again one that we brought to Reading Roundtable because we figured it would be a good like open-ended prompt for people to bring something interesting. I believe we had Anne and Josh from Literary Gladiators on the channel for that one. I reread a book that I read as a kid that I haven't read since I was like maybe 8 or 9 years old. Gretchen read a graphic novel version of one of her favorite books from when she was a kid, which is insane because she almost never goes graphic. Josh brought some nonfiction from when he was a kid, which was interesting. And we had an interesting discussion with Anne because she read a book from her childhood that she saw sort of like repackaged and republished very differently for a modern audience. So yeah, it was a very interesting discussion. If you want to hear us talk about rereading and the changes that have happened in children's publishing between the 1900s and the 2000s, because that's sort of where we're coming from as people. We're old now.
I
That's
was born in the 1900s.
I know, 19. If your birthday starts with a 19, rough. But yeah, it
Get
was
your
so
cholesterol checked and watch your back.
yeah. It's having a good time around here. I thought that that was like a super fun prompt that we did, and it was a great discussion to have too. So definitely worth listening to that episode.
Oh, number 9. Whew. So this was to read a feminist text, and this was just because we realized we hadn't done something specifically feminist. Like things with a feminist bent are our wheelhouse generally, but we wanted to be a little bit more intentional with picking something. And at the time, we just had a feminist text because we were thinking, oh, maybe we'll do poetry, maybe we'll do nonfiction. Like we weren't exactly sure how we wanted to take this. And originally we were kind of going to actually double dip with Reservoir Bitches, because that was both translated and a explicit feminist text.
Yes.
We did not do that, and instead we went with Sour Cherry by Natalia Theodorodou, and this was supposed to be a feminist retelling of the Bluebeard myth, which sounded fascinating because if you are not familiar, the Bluebeard myth is this guy who just keeps murdering his wives, and he keeps telling the new one, you can go anywhere in my castle except in this one room. And when she opens that, she sees all the dead bodies, and then he has to kill her and start all over again. So I think we were both curious, like, how is this going to be feminist? And then it wasn't. And then it wasn't. We had a really, really good discussion with the book. I think it's a really excellent one to watch because we kind of were picking through the tropes and the themes and the ideas and being like, okay, like I see maybe what we were trying to do here, but this part of it worked and this part of it didn't. And also, like, in trying to do this and be different about this trope, it actually then recapitulates like an anti-feminist message. Um, and also there's this huge side quest in the middle that makes no effing sense, but you know, whatever, plotting. Beautifully written, like
Mhm.
sentence level wise, right? Like the author clearly has talent in that area. Um, but yeah, it was an experience. And we did read this kind of back to back on Reservoir Bitches. And my text to Michaela after this was, please no violence against women next time. So that was a rough one. But again, I think both those reviews are really excellent. Discussions about books as well as, you know, the book we actually read. So
I think around the same time, we also did a reading roundtable that was fulfilling our last challenge, where Gretchen had yet another horrible experience with violence against women. And that prompt was originally to read a middle grade novel found on a banned book list. We ended up widening that to just a children's book. So it was YA, middle grade. It could have been picture books, whatever it was. Again, Josh from Literary Gladiators joined us for that one, and Gretchen's friend Erica joined us. Gretchen read a YA book that had her going insane, and then her recounting of the insanity made the rest of us all laugh, cry, scream, what have you. That clip is our most popular short that exists on the channel right now.
and it was my worst book of the year, in
Yeah,
case you're curious.
she did not have a good time
No.
in like September, October time on the channel, unfortunately. I'm
No.
so sorry. I enjoyed the book that I read, which was Melissa, which is a trans, like, middle grade, like, early chapter book sort of time period. Josh talked about the New Kid graphic novels, and Erica brought the new installment in the Inkheart series, I believe, if I'm recalling correctly.
Yes.
So all of those were interesting things to talk about, and we had a really great discussion about sort of the insane rise in book banning that we are experiencing here in America, but I'm sure is also happening in other places as weird conservative governments are slowly trying to take over all of our lives and control what people can read. Highly recommend looking into Banned Books Week if you've never heard of it, and going and watching us discuss all of this in more detail in that video for sure.
So we've had these bonus challenges hanging out. I don't know how many years in a row we've rolled them over because in our deep belief in ourselves, we said, okay, here's our 10 regular challenges and like this bonus challenge we're gonna tack in on the end. And then year after year, not even completing the 10 challenges, and then being like, yeah, but we're gonna carry the bonus challenges too. Because we believe in ourselves
Mm-hmm.
for for years. And this year we actually did it. Which is, thank God. It's just like, just get that monkey off our back. But the bonus challenge was for each of us to read a book recommended by one of our favorite authors. Now you may notice that you haven't seen us discuss anything about this, and this is because I finished this book at the literal last possible second, if not the second after the literal last possible second. So we have been working on getting these challenges, like this wrap up done, getting the new challenges out. We have a brand new thing that we're adding to our reading roundtables this year, which we've been kind of like troubleshooting and working on that you'll hear about. So we just haven't filmed this video yet. But we both did complete it. And I think it's going to be a really interesting discussion because I think both of us went, I see why,
Yes.
but also I'm confused.
Yes.
Um, so we will be bringing that video to you guys at some point. I read a romance, Michaela read a horror. No one is shocked. But yeah, because we did it, guys. We actually 100%ed, well, like 120% because we did the bonus
Mhm.
challenges. So when we do release our challenges for this year next week, they're all new. there was no rollover, which honestly meant more work for us. And yes, we added a bonus challenge.
Have to. It's part of the thing. There always has to be a bonus challenge.
The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different
We
result.
achieved it. We had a different result.
The odds are not in our favor,
No.
but you don't come here for consistency.
No. So that was our 2025 buddy reading challenge. We completed all of it, even the bonus challenges. We did it. We nailed it. Loved that. I again am going to have a playlist linked for you where you can go and watch all of those videos in place, even the bonus challenge one. Once that's up, I will add it to this. So if it's not there yet, keep an eye out. It will happen at some point. We are planning to do it. And again, next week, can't wait to tell you about our challenges for next year. So keep an eye out on the channel. It will be here and we will be ready to talk about it. Bye.